Welcome to another movie plot and enjoy the holidays. We open in California on Mockingbird Lane with Christmas carolers meeting their new neighbors. Herman Munster tries to be friendly but just scares everybody away with his dance moves or possibly the freakish appearance. His wife Lily is getting dinner ready, but Herman is one of Frankenstein's creations, so he's naturally afraid of fire. The only normal member of the family is Marilyn, who decorates the tree and uses her uncle's bolts to power the lights. The vampire grandpa is probably the weirdest of the bunch and has made a mistletoe out of actual toes. All of these celebrations are to snap Eddie out of his funk, as the wolf boy is homesick for a white Christmas in Transylvania. Even placing the impaled rat on top of the tree doesn't bring him any enjoyment, so Eddie begins his walk to school with his dorky friend. A couple of bullies harass him for his letter to Santa and are only able to throw him into a garden because it isn't a full moon. Mrs. Dimwitty doesn't like her new neighbors, so frames what just happened as Eddie ripping up her flower beds to the homeowners association. When he goes home, Eddie's greeted by the doorknocker and is presumed to be covered in dirt from burying kids at recess. He feeds his letter from Santa to the hellhound beneath the stairs and laments about not being able to take him for a walk. Before sealing him back inside, Spot burps up the letter to be found at a later date while Eddie goes to bed in his cupboard. He sleeps with his teddy Wolfie and tells his parents that he's fine, but they feel like he's losing his Munster pride. Before he becomes normal, they decide to have a Transylvanian Christmas, with each family member hatching separate plans to make the day special. Herman decides to get Eddie a deluxe dungeon playset from a Transylvanian catalog, which comes complete with a stretch-o-matic torture rack. The only problem is that Herman works a low-paying job as a cemetery groundskeeper, so asks his boss for a Christmas bonus. Mr. Gateman refuses, as safety regulations have reduced the money he makes from the usual holiday drunk drivers and victims of faulty Christmas tree wiring. He tries a few odd jobs around town, like posing as a nude model, but whatever he's packing down there terrifies all the artists. Attempting to sell blood, the nurse needs to keep increasing the size of the needle to pierce Herman's flesh, but he doesn't even produce any. Marilyn's plan to cheer Eddie up is to invite all of their relatives from the old country to a Christmas party, so goes posting invitations. Lily decides that it would be a good idea to enter them into the house decorating contest and takes Eddie to the sign-up. Dimwitty's disgusted at her competition and refuses to shake the boy's hand, but that's probably for the best, as he's long overdue for a flea bath. Finally, Grandpa thinks that all they need is a little snow, so Europe's preeminent alchemist plans to make some by using MSG. Not sure how that's going to work, but the first thing that Grandpa mixes up in his lab turns out to just be a cocktail anyway. Meanwhile, Marilyn's walking down Mockingbird Lane handing out invitations, confused as to why all the men keep staring at her. She's considered the ugly one of the family because she doesn't have any fur or fangs and distracts a rider enough to fall off his bike. The flustered Tom doesn't even get to introduce himself before Marilyn runs away, dropping an invitation as she leaves. She couldn't handle all of his compliments, so returns to 1313 and asks Grandpa if the stranger really thinks she's beautiful or if he's just lying. Of course, Grandpa finds anyone with a pulse ugly, so he says that Marilyn has a beautiful heart, which is what Tom must have seen. Her invitations begin to reach family members, including the mummy in Egypt to the creature from the Black Lagoon to a werewolf somewhere under a full moon. Somewhere over the Arctic Circle, Santa codename Polar Bear radios the North Pole codename Icehouse that Vixen has something wrong with her hoof. He's accompanied in his travels by two elves, Larry and Lefty, who stabilize the sleigh from the rear while it's in flight. Grandpa's most recent attempt to make it snow is to teleport a blizzard from the North Pole, but he accidentally abducts Santa and his two elves. While Saint Nick demands Grandpa sends him back before there are millions of disappointed children, the elves seem to forget their mission. They're all over Marilyn like any other guy in this town, only these two definitely win first prize for horniest characters in the movie. Remarking at how it would take them an hour to climb those legs, they've got the time because Santa must wait around for Grandpa. He has a mishap at one point and the family think he exploded right out of his shoes, but they find him alive and hanging from the ceiling. Herman's even more excited to meet Santa than Eddie, who just can't get into the Christmas spirit without being in Transylvania. He goes to play with his scorpions, so Santa leaves him with the comforting notion that his bullies will be receiving coal on Christmas Day. While they wait for the teleportation potion, Lily hands out cups of tea with spiders while Herman has some questions for Red. He tries to ask him the formal way but just ends up crushing Santa's legs under the monster's enormous weight. Finding Eddie's letter on the floor, Santa promises to keep it safe, but the kid still says that he just wants Christmas to be over. While the rest of the decorating contestants plan to win with perfectly normal Christmas displays, the Munsters go a little ghoulish. Their decorations consist of a guillotine in the front yard where Lily spends all day with Eddie, making the place look festive. When the head of the Homeowners Association comes around, he's disgusted by the display, which is exactly what the Munsters were going for. When the actual judges arrive, they love the creativity, and against all logic they prefer the original design over the uninspired neighbors. Meanwhile, Herman has been trying to get carolers to sing for him all day, but they just keep running away in fear. When Tom arrives at the Munsters' home looking for Marilyn, he's given a lesson on etiquette by the doorknocker that you only tap him thrice. Herman answers hoping to hear some Christmas carols, but is disappointed to learn the visitor is only here to swoon his niece. Tom invites Marilyn to a bar called Hog Heaven where his band will be playing tonight, so she agrees and puts the invite up on the cupboard. Santa's little helpers got kicked out of a club for not having any ID, but they're 800 years old, so they didn't think they would get carded. Upon hearing that the potion's almost complete, the two begin conspiring for a way to prolong their stay in California. They concoct a sleeping potion and trick Santa into drinking it, but instead of putting him to sleep, it transforms him into a giant fruitcake. It's a bit of a bummer, but they figure that now's the chance to enjoy themselves and nobody's going to eat a disgusting fruitcake anyway. They find the brochure for Hog Heaven, and fortunately this place doesn't care about ID because Lefty and Larry get a little loosey. Back on Mockingbird Lane, Dimwitty schemes to make sure the judges award her house the win, but Lily's still trying to be a polite neighbor. She saves Santa from being eaten by Herman, but then gives the sentient fruitcake away to the dimwit as a present. What she doesn't realize is that the neighbor is bribing the judges of the competition with liquored up eggnog and sweets. Dimwitty decides to try serve them some cake, but Santa begins moaning, so she tries to smother the dessert with a blanket. When that doesn't work, she drowns the temperamental cake in eggnog, covering herself head to toe and scaring the homeowners association. They flee when she hits Santa with a body slam, then waves around the carving knife, insisting that this is all the Munsters' fault. Back at 1313, the family realize that Santa is missing, so split up to search the grounds using Eddie like a bloodhound. Unable to find him, they wonder if old Saint Nick stumbled into the hellhound's lair, but Spot just coughs up half a mailman knows Santa. There's a ring at the door as Dimwitty has come to return the fruitcake, and Lily thinks that 2 visits in one day means that they're fitting in. When Herman finally gets a piece of that fully aware fruitcake, Santa begins to squirm and the mystery is solved. Grandpa says that somebody got into his dessert transmog elixir, but they also destroyed his lab and the means of reverting the spell. The old vampire hides himself away in his coffin while Lily begins mixing her own concoctions to give Santa back his original cake. She turns him into an egg, a tree, a pumpkin, and a turkey before eventually giving up and trying to come up with a new plan. Eddie sniffs around the lab and detects the scent of elves, while Marilyn finds the brochure for Hog Heaven, so they all set out. Arriving at the bar, Lily talks with Tom and orders a Virgin Bloody Mary light on the virgin blood, while the rest of the family find the elves. Even with Eddie begging them to save Christmas, they refuse to leave as these overworked elves are finally getting to relax. The Munsters go home dejected, but at least Lily manages to find a mixture that returns Santa to his original state. Unfortunately, he still can't deliver the presents as he says he needs elf magic, which is the secret to his seemingly impossible feats. Just then Lefty and Larry enter to save the day, having changed their minds and wanting to make it up to the family. The real reason is that a babe at the bar said she had fantasies about sleeping with elves but rejected them when hearing they ruined Christmas. They also need toys, so Tom brings all of the leather-clad bikers from the bar to help make them with the elves' Toymaster 6000. They just whip this thing up out of nowhere that produces toys from the imagination of the Herman Munster interface. For a sleigh, Grandpa takes Herman and the Munster coach down to the town center so that he can steal the display sled. On their way back, a police officer pulls over the hot rod hearse for grand theft auto, but one look at the flat-top monster and he runs away. Once Santa has listened to all the bikers' wishes, they load the toys up into the sleigh and Santa gives Herman a costume so that he can join him. It's his greatest dream to go for a ride with Santa, so he rushes back to the house to put on the suit, killing the doorknocker on his way. Dressed to deliver presents, the last thing they need is reindeer, so Santa connects all of the bikers in a row at the front of the sled. Not sure why they agree to go along with this.
Santa promised me a choo-choo!
But Grandpa sprinkles some pixie dust on them while Santa tells Eddie he couldn't have done it without him, and the sleigh departs. Leadfoot, Rocco, Knuckles, Slammer, Zero, Chopper, Bomber, and Bammer get lift off, and they deliver all of the presents before December 25th. During the night, Dimwitty tries to destroy the Munsters' decorations, but they terrify her into getting trapped in the spiderweb. She manages to get free but spends the rest of her Christmas Eve battling the various traps in the front yard. When Christmas Day arrives, Herman wakes up out front of his home and enters the newly repaired door to be distracted by his wife. It's a surprise party as all of Herman's family and overextended relatives have come to visit, including Rosemary's baby. Everyone enjoys mingling while Tom assumes that the Munsters are just having a costume party on Christmas. Across the road, Dimwitty's decorations eke out the wind despite the fruitcake kerfuffle when the judges notice snow falling on the number 1313. Santa has made it a white Christmas for the Munsters, which gives off enough of a festive appearance to have them win the trophy. The judges' excitement is short-lived as the rest of the family come out to say hello, so all of the normal people run away. Eddie is finally happy because this is the first thing that he's ever won, while I'm sure there's some bigger message about family in there somewhere. But it's Christmas, so all that really matters is that Dad got him that dungeon playset with stretch-o-matic action. And the movie ends.